My name is Cheryl Thornton, and what Ferguson meant to me, I just feel devalued as a person of this country that has been here for more than 5 generations of my family, and yet I still feel like I don't have full citizenship when people that look like me can be killed on the street for no good reason over a $3 cigar. I think that this country, we have a lot of work to do, as President Obama said. I work for the health department, and I'm part of SEIU 10-1, but I feel at this point in time, I feel that ever since President Obama got reelected, that the racism has just increased in our country, and I feel that within my own job, that I don't have security, that I've been attacked and bullied, I don't feel like what I put in is what I get out, and so yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Brenda Barros, and how I feel about Ferguson is I'm very angry. There have been many things over the years, the last 5 years, that have got me very angry. How black people are treated on jobs, how people really don't care about how they're treated on jobs, how difficult it is to, when you're being discriminated against, to prove it in the workplace, and how they dismiss it all the time. And I think that I have grandsons. And so it's really sad, and almost brings you to tears that you got to teach your grandson, well, if the cops stop you, you put your hands on the top of the car, you don't agitate them in any kind of way, and to know that even then, if a cop decides to kill him, they can just do it, is very saddening. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
It's really terrifying. And these kids now, you know, I think about how hard it was when I was coming up. These poor kids now, oh my God, the crap they have to go through just to survive, to live till 18. It's terrible.
And what should the unions be doing about it?
Well, I think that unions is one of the issues. Is unions are made up of the same people that everybody else is made up with, right? They're the same people that are made up of general society, and just as difficult it is to get people out in general society to do anything about this, it's equally as difficult to get unions to do anything about it, because it's the same people. There are races in unions. People don't talk about it, but there are races in unions. There are racist institutional things that are built into unions, just as in every other part of society. I think it's time for people to get agitated, to stop silently taking it. And we may not always be successful, you know, but you have to keep fighting.
But aren't you one of those outside agitators?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm probably considered in many areas an outside agitator. And I was told by a politician, well, you know, she's quiet, and but she speaks up when she needs to. And that's really how I am, right? When something really needs to be said, I get very passionate about it, and I have to say the truth. I have to speak truth to power. And sometimes that gets me in trouble in the union and out of the union. But I feel like I have to.
Well, for those who say this is just about Ferguson and not San Francisco.
It's not just about Ferguson, because Ferguson is everywhere. We're all dealing with it, right? Even before I even heard anything about Ferguson, there are issues happening right here where I live, right? You don't get the press that who knows why certain things get more press than others. But things are happening all the time.
In Antioch, what's going on there?
In Antioch, there are people killing people. There are people getting raped. There's people being stopped. My own husband, when we bought a house in Antioch, I don't even talk about this story. When we bought a house in Antioch, I went to a doctor down the street. So I just picked a local doctor down the street. So I had a doctor's appointment. And so I drove the car. And so he decided he was going to walk down and get the car, which is only about 3 blocks from my house. Before he could get there, there were about 8 cop cars around him, talking about, they said there's a black man breaking in cars. Now, he was looking for where I parked our car, right? And That's what I'm talking about. And that happens to people all the time. And a lot of time people don't talk about it, a lot of time people don't discuss it, but this stuff is happening to black men in particular all the time.
My name is George Wright, former university professor, activist in the United Public Workers for Action. My response to the grand jury report and Robert McCullough's comments last night are multiple. The first point, I think, is that I was not surprised by the result at all. There's no way that Darren Wilson was going to be indicted in St. Louis County at all for having murdered Michael Brown. As a black male, I've understood since I was born that the life of an African-American person is not worth a plug nickel in this society. But this is nothing new. This has been since the beginnings of the institutional slavery back in the 1600s. That obviously we've had different stages of history. We've had slavery, we've had Jim Crow. Now we're at a new stage of history where the most oppressive apparatus, perhaps for African Americans, short of the overall economy, is the so-called criminal justice system. And what we're watching is that criminal justice system operate unchecked.
But people said a black president, a black attorney general, this would change it?
Oh, it can't change it because we're living in a system. And it doesn't matter what color or what gender the president is at any point in time. The system operates in a specific way. It is a capitalist system that fosters imperialism, and it is at a particular historical moment where the contradictions globally and domestically are stark, represented by two things. One, the gross inequality based on class in our society, and also the tearing away of the basic safety net that the corporate liberal or New Deal liberal process put into place starting in the 1930s. And so Obama is just part of that system. I personally believe he was vetted by ruling class interests and was installed to just do that, to be a buffer to marginalize or diffuse anger that was driven during the Bush administration.
Well, in his speech last night, he said he didn't want any outside agitators. The problem was people need to control themselves.
Oh, there's no such thing as outside agitators. The issues in Ferguson are the issues that are national and, for that matter, international. And in fact, what the response by people from outside of the Ferguson community is related to solidarity, class and international solidarity. And that's something that should be fostered and encouraged and celebrated and not to be disparaged. What he's doing there is to try to do what is always done, is to claim that it's the bad people from outside are causing the violence. That's what the white Southerners did in the South during the Civil Rights Movement in the 1950s, when black and white youth and others from the North came down to assist, like in Freedom Summer, for example, in 1964. The White Citizens Councils called those people outside agitators. But we wouldn't have had the changes that took place if it wasn't for not only local people protesting and carrying out the direct actions they did, but also the people from outside. So that's a bogus response on his part, and it's also aimed to justify the increased repression that was carried out visibly in Ferguson, but also is being prepared all over the United States to deal with similar Fergusons that will inevitably explode because of the contradictions that I mentioned before. What is unique about Ferguson from my vantage point is that, to carry a phrase from the 1960s, the whole world is watching, because the United States goes around the world using its military, claiming that it's going to ram democracy down the throats of people, whether it's Iraq or Afghanistan or Ukraine or wherever. But now those people can see exactly what democracy represents inside the United States. When an indictment was needed and deserved in this situation, the system, perhaps manipulated by McCullough, But I think the Justice Department, the Obama administration, and other forces were behind this. They manipulated the system so that they could get the exact outcome that they wanted. And in many ways, they want the violent response because it further justifies the repression under the guise of the militarization of the police that they're carrying out.
I'm Joe Elias Jackson, and I live in San Francisco. What Ferguson means to me is that the world, especially this country, hates black people. We are a means to the billionaires getting richer. This country was founded on slavery, and they can't get over it. So by any other means, it's maybe not picking cotton, but maybe we're making license plates. They found a way by law, by policy, by officials, by elected officials to make slavery legal again. And somehow it's related to black people. And so here we are, hate crimes against black people. They won't teach us. They won't even let us know ourselves and our culture. They rob us of our sense of value. This predatory practice that's been going on every moment of my life. At birth, in the hospital, did they have me in the black box? They saw my parents. They knew they were black. I feel for white moms who, when the kid comes out, they're not sure yet. But let's face it, the world, the United States, hates black people. Ferguson is a major hate crime. And the fact that we're sitting here not surprised and in pain that another child has been crucified, has been martyred too young, too soon. It's ridiculous. And why? Because that green stuff is more important than human lives, and especially more important than black lives. I mean, what are they? They're slaves. They're nothing. They're nobodies. They're an irritation. They're violent. They're, I can't right now even think of the boxes that they put us in. And so society goes, and the television programs and the news, which is supposed to be fair and objective, just to share what has occurred. And those are tainted and slanted. Why? That green stuff. Money. Money is the only important thing these days. And they ravage black people, and they have for centuries. We can even go back to Africa. And they burn the libraries. How, when you conquer or you fight or go to war with another country, is a library a weapon of mass destruction that needs to be destroyed? I'll let you guys ponder that reason. But money is all that matters. Ferguson is, and poor Michael Brown and his family, yet another black life shot down, murdered, hate crime, and nobody puts any of those terms together when they think about Michael Brown. It's ridiculous. Why? Money. The billionaires need a billionaires or a money anonymous. The more money they have, the more money they want, and they're not satisfied. And where nothing, they are so ill. And that's the basis of this country. So we're sitting here, pained, hurting, going through work, jobs. Thankful we have jobs. I have a master's, and I'm getting hated on after 20 years. What about my brothers and sisters, black, white, brown, purple, blue, that don't have a master's, and they're in the workforce, and they're getting hated on? What do we do about our human lives that have value? And somehow this society has forgotten we have value. Black lives matter. Black people have value. And until we change this paradigm this awful shift that they have us believing we have nothing, we are nothing, we have no value. Until we get cultural competency for all human lives to be implemented everywhere in the insidious schools that they're stopped teaching our children, that they're targeting now in kindergarten and third grade, children, poor, precious children being targeted because of money. Till we address that, what good is this society? We're supposed to be the great Americans, and look at what we're doing. If it's not about money, if those guys up at the top that can't possibly use the money they have, that a percentage, 1% is a drop in the bucket, that would do so much good for human lives. And there's enough for everyone. There's enough for this world to be equitable and fair and just, and everybody to be happy and to have lives and successful in whatever manner they choose. There's enough on this planet for all, but it's not to be at this point in time, and we need to change that. We all matter. And it's time. Ferguson is the straw that broke the camel's back. We must stand up. Say it loud, I am Black and I'm proud. We should all be proud to be the human beings that we are. It is time to stand up. Money does not matter. Human lives matter.